Alright, so now that it's week 15, we have to talk about the Green Bay Packer game and what the fans are thinking. Well, I can tell you what the fans are thinking in this first segment here. It's a 3-word sentence, and they'll have it in all caps and exclamation points at the top of their Christmas list that they probably sent to Santa Claus a long time ago. And in big, bold print, their letters to Santa Claus said, "Fire Joe Barry." And we'll get into that a little more and why they want to have Joe Barry fired, and that this Packers defense is kind of embarrassing for them. Keep in mind, as a Bears fan, I really know what embarrassing moments look like. But today in Lambeau, history was made. Baker Mayfield did something that Tom Brady couldn't do, Peyton Manning couldn't do, not even Green Bay Packers legend Jay Cutler himself could do. And that was be the first opposing QB to have a perfect passer rating in Lambeau Field. Does perfect passer rating mean a whole lot? I'd be lying if I tried to act like I knew or not. I really have no clue. I'm going to go on a limb and say it probably means something, just because of how it's, they keep the stats, so it's got to be meant for something. But anyways, the Packers secondary is just looking horrible because, 381 passing yards. Chris Godwin just went scorched earth, 155 yards receiving. Oddly enough, he didn't have a touchdown. David Moore had just 2 lone receptions on the day. 2 of them for 68 yards and a touchdown. 52 of those yards came on his touchdown pass that was supposed to be a quick, 5 or 6 yard screen pass to get them the first down. Well, as we all know, they ended up getting more than the first down. They ended up getting a touchdown instead of the first down. Mike Evans had 4 receptions for 57 yards and a touchdown. Rachaad White had a touchdown reception of his own, and oddly enough, Ko Kieft even had a touchdown on his first reception of the season. That should tell you something right there, shouldn't it, with how this Packers defense has been. Well, this also should describe something for you with Green Bay. Their defense on a couple of possessions, this one I took note of particular, they sacked Baker Mayfield for a 9-yard loss to bring up 2nd and 19. Immediately following the next play, they gave up 20 yards for a first down Tampa Bay. So you go from a sack to 2nd and forever to 20 yards later and first down Tampa Bay. It was really bad. When you have them lining up in man coverage 9-10 yards back away from, I don't 100% know man football. I'd be lying if I did. I'm sure some of my buddies who played would tell me that man coverage isn't playing 9-10 yards downfield and giving up 15 yards. It's usually not how it works. This Packers defense today had one of the worst pass coverage performances ever by any NFL team in recent history. How you were worse than some of these Bears teams and worse than the 0-16 Browns, I don't want to know. I don't want to know how you did worse than the 0-16 Browns. But they did. Boy, did they ever. Their overall Pro Football Focus coverage grade was a 29.3, which is the lowest of any team the last 5 years. And that's a problem. But don't worry, Green Bay. Your ground running defense improved. You only gave up a total of 98 rushing yards to Tampa. But you gave up well over 400 total yards offense. It wasn't even funny. And the fact that this is happening just over and over and over again on loop should tell you something here, Green Bay. The fans are seeing it. The media people are seeing it. The everyday people like me who aren't Packer fans but watch them every Sunday are seeing it. This defense, they're not even a break but don't bend. They're a we'll bend and we'll break and then we'll bend and break again until there's absolutely nothing left of us. And why might that be? Well, some of that would go back to the defensive coordinator in Joe Barry. All these problems have occurred in the last 2 seasons, really. And this is where Joe Barry needs to be fired. Believe me, guys, as a Bears fan, I know what it's like firing your coordinators and coaches every 2, 3, 4 years. If they make it past that, it's a miracle. But remember the Lions game last year that ended the Packers season where the Packers defense was kind of just struggling with Green Bay against the Lions and all that, and eventually they, ended up losing. But the Lions, yeah, and Packers GM, they brought back Joe Barry after the Lions game at the end of the season, which, okay, it was supposed to be I won't say rebuilding year as much as a retooling year to see what you had to work with. Because going into the year, Jordan Love only had 1 NFL start under his belt. Now we know, as we'll cover a little bit later in the same segment, he's not the problem. He's far from the problem. He's actually not the Packers' problem. That's losing them games. He's winning them games, which Packer fans, I don't know if they want to see that, but he's winning them games. Okay, you're kidding. They love to see that. But anyways, back to this. Joe Barry has been losing and losing and losing. But yeah, maybe the Packer fans will be happy to get fired. Here are stats on Joe Barry coached defenses on yards per game allowed. 2007 Detroit Lions ranked last. 2008 Detroit Lions, the ones that finished 0-16, finished last in the league. 2015, Washington gave him another chance. Their team finished 28th. Same story in 2016. Oddly enough, Green Bay hired him in 2021 to be their defensive coordinator fresh off an NFC Championship game. Now, was that NFC title game against Tom Brady very pretty? No, it was not. But their defense could have been... The defensive coordinator was not their entire problem. No, in 2021, the year they hired him, they finished 9th. Okay. Top 10 defense on that. That's pretty good. 2022, they took a step backwards to where it went to 2022 being ranked 17th. And then 2023, before week 15, obviously, they're ranked 19th. Now, they are very much going to be downward descending into a bottom-of-the-barrel defense because there's no reason for them to be a top of the pack, even middle of the pack style defense right now. They have the pieces. Look how many of their first round picks they invested into being the defense. This year's first round pick and Lucas Van Ness looked good, but at the same time, most of that defense has been made up of first round picks. And now, I understand injuries and all that, but you're not working. You're like getting hurt. And they are very much a struggle. I won't be surprised if Joe Barry gets fired because good God was that bad. One of the good things for Packer fans today was Jordan Love. He went 29 of 39. Yeah, he obviously missed throws. That's part of it. Went with 284 yards and 2 touchdowns, and they scored 20 points. That should, and I mean key terms here, should have been enough for them to win the game. But you know why it wasn't? Because the Packers have a Joe Barry coached defense. Even the Bears fan here is saying Joe Barry is very much a problem. He's got to go. Joe Barry's got to go. He's horrible. Because Jordan Love he's looking great. Jordan Love's numbers on the year, he's got 3,368 passing yards for 25 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. But, yeah. And then Aaron Jones came back today, which is always a plus. And they used him quite a bit on that first drive. Then Matt LaFleur went away from the run game for the most part, and it was sad. Dontavian Wicks and Tucker Kraft, they had themselves good days. And Tucker Kraft is really starting to show that he can be a good young weapon at the tight end. Same with Musgrove when he was healthy. Dontavian Wicks is turning into a good receiver. He's got a bright future. If he can stay healthy. Exhibit A is Christian Watson. He's got a bright future if he can stay healthy with a speed threat. But now comes the part where, even as a Bears fan, man, this is where I definitely understand what questionable play calls and all are like. But you gotta question Matt LaFleur's play calling at times. I may not have a dog in that fight as a Bears fan, but you gotta question it at some point. Like, come on, man. Running when you're going for like that 2-point conversion to try and make it instead of a field goal wins you the game, a field goal will just force overtime, make them have to go for the touchdown. And you call a reverse to Dontavian Wicks, and you just kept running like 1, 2, 3. It felt like all you were doing was running a reverse. What were you doing there, man? The Giants were ready for that. Just like Matt LaFleur, I know he doesn't call it defense, that's Joe Barry's jurisdiction. Another prime example why Joe Barry needs to go is when he was letting Danny DeVito walk down the field because he is having the softest man coverage I've seen. It seems this is something the Packers do on loop because, you know, he decided to play man coverage like 10, 11 yards downfield and just let them walk on down, kick the field goal, game over, rest is history. Matt LaFleur's play calls are very much a problem with that too. You can see that today even, where there were a lot of calls that were questionable. And sometimes I wonder, does Matt LaFleur know when he's challenging a play? Because it wasn't a bad challenge when he challenged the, when he was looking at them and going, I'm going to challenge this play. Because it was a 2-score game in the fourth quarter, and it was like, worst comes to worst, it's 4th down, we have to punt the ball, but I'm going to try and get the first down if I can. And ultimately, it didn't go in Green Bay's favor. But you also have to question his choices when it comes to him having somewhat of a say too over his coaching staff he's with when it comes to defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator. Because while that special teams coordinator works on stuff like that, just look at how much of a struggle it's been for the young special teams unit. We all saw how big a struggle it's been for the defense, but the special teams been rather inconsistent. You have arguably the best kick returner in the game with Keyshawn Nixon, and you don't know how to use him really. And would say the rookie kicker missing some field goals is a problem, but I think we all know every kicker is missing these kicks nowadays. Every single one of them. It's kind of bad. But Matt LaFleur was asked about a mid-season coaching change at the defensive coordinator position, and his response was, now's not the time for that, to be honest with you. Just like, how many times can he go up there and say, well, you see, today we were outcoached. They got the better coach staff, yada, yada. The same stuff every single coach always says. And 97-3 to Game's Twitter, they've pointed this out too, that Packers tight end Tucker Kraft on how he believes Green Bay's offense can bounce back next week versus Carolina. And he said, in quote, I believe the only team that can beat the Packers are the Packers. And oh boy, did the Packers ever beat themselves today. But, hey, don't worry, Packer fans. It could be worse. It could be you throw a Hail Mary, the defenders get it, and you could have a wide receiver where the Hail Mary falls right into his numbers, drops it, back up, interception, game over, you lose. So just remember, it can always be worse, and you could be a Bears fan like this guy is.